Good afternoon. I'm Courtney Hudson, the CEO and the founder of Emerging Med, and here to talk to you, as I've spoken with Andy about in the past, about how to get access to clinical trials and find clinical trials. I started Emerging Med probably for the same reasons you're here today and the same reasons that Stacy and friends and family started the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation. I wanted to help, and Andy, following in on your comments, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I figured there was something I could do, and I did have a science background. So we set out to make sure that every patient, and particularly we focused on cancer, every patient could find and access any trial going on in the country for which you might be eligible. We created the Clinical Trial Navigation Service to do that. We've been running that for 17 years now, and I want to tell you a little bit about it so that, and encourage you all to use it and to get help from us. Point number one, it is an unbiased service. We have the full national database, and the idea is that through one questionnaire, you can figure out what you might be eligible for at a moment's notice. Second, we want to make sure you connect with navigators. Clinical trials are confusing. They're coming and going. We're never going to give you medical advice. We want to make sure you're armed with the information that you need to either talk to trial sites and investigators or to work with your own healthcare team to explore your options. We want you to have as much time as possible to explore those options. So we want to make sure that the logistics we take off your hands as much as we possibly can. Over the last 17 years, we've helped about 250,000 people with cancer search for clinical trials, and about 100,000 of those folks have been on the phone with our navigators getting support. We would love for everybody who's newly diagnosed to get a profile created in the system and start learning about clinical trials, whether or not a clinical trial is a good idea at the beginning of your journey or not. Make sure you understand them, you know what the options are, and you understand what the trade-offs are going to be as you're getting started. The navigators that you see here, this is our current team. There's 8 of them. They were over at my house for dinner about a month ago or so. This group in particular has have spoken with 36,000 different people. They've been with us anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. I would say they've heard it all, but there's always something new that comes up and new issues and complications with all the cancer trials going on. In bile duct cancer, there are maybe 40 trials open right now that are very specifically labeled for cholangiocarcinoma or bile duct cancers, but there are another 300 solid tumor trials, most with targeted therapies or immunotherapies, for which you might be eligible, or somebody with your diagnosis might be able to enroll and interested. We want to make sure that you know what those options are, and you get those added and are in front of those are in front of you any moment in time. Let's see. One of the things we've added, literally over just the last few months, Emerging Med has merged with a company called CareBox. CareBox brings you a tool, and we're going to offer it to you as soon as Clinical Trials Explorer launches through our navigators. It's a cloud-based folder that lets you upload your medical records, organize them, gather them, share them as you see fit. But you control the folder, and you can log into any electronic medical record in particular that you've got access to, and it will literally pull in and organize and structure the data from your results. So not only do we want to make sure you understand your options at any moment in time, we want to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to keep your medical records together and to share them any place you need to, with a clinical trial site, second opinion, or for any reason you need to gather and share them. Make that as simple as possible. I think an important thing, and I think if there was one message I would leave with all of you, and that is we can take some of the legwork out of the search for you. So whether you're a patient or a caregiver or a physician managing a group of patients, we can help do some of that legwork of finding options and getting you connect with trial sites. If you're not hearing back or you're having kind of some logistical or informational barriers, we can intervene in those cases so you don't have to worry about some of those administrative issues as you're moving along. but you will drive, particularly to patients and caregivers here, you'll drive the amount of interest and pursuit of clinical trials with your team. They will often, physicians and nurses will take their cue from you. So I think, as Andy said, I couldn't encourage that more. It's confusing, it's scary. If you can, and if you're working with somebody or you meet somebody who's newly diagnosed, please help them, if you can, get educated earlier rather than later, so that they understand their options and they understand how those options can be accessed over time. So thank you very much.